Welcome, everybody. This is the second in the series.
I don't think it's on.
Oh. Lita, we can hear you.
There we go.
Okay. There she is. Okay. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Kelly Spangler, and I'm the current chair of the Justice and Advocacy Ministry Committee. We're happy to have everybody here. And this is the second in the series that we're doing on child poverty and hunger. So this is going to be a session that requires some activity and action. So I hope you'll go with the flow and be willing to do that tonight. I'm going to welcome it. Oh, one thing, silence your phones if you can, so we don't get interrupted. And Pastor, I've got my chat open for some reason. Can I just close it at the top without eliminating everybody from my screen? Pastor Alfredo? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh, no, that's not gonna work. Okay. One more thing, let me try this. I don't know how I did that, but I'm afraid to close it. Anyway, it's okay. All right, so we're gonna start tonight with a prayer. And I found one that I really like. It's called A Prayer to End Child Poverty in Our Time. I thought that was very appropriate. And it's written by Marian Wright Edelman, who is the founder and president emerita of the Children's Defense Fund, which is a national organization, advocacy organization for children in poverty. I had to edit it a bit because it's kind of long, but I picked some stanzas that I thought were important. So again, thanks for being here tonight. And let's pray. God, help us to end poverty in our time. The poverty of having a child with too little to eat and no place to sleep, no air, sunlight, and space to breathe, bask, and grow. The poverty of watching your child suffer hunger or get sicker and sicker and not knowing what to do or how to get help because you don't have another dime or a car, money, or health insurance. The poverty of having a job which does not let you afford a stable place to live and being terrified you'll become homeless and lose your children to foster care. The poverty of loneliness and isolation, having no one to call or visit, tell you where to get help, assist you in getting it, or care if you're living or dead. The poverty of having too much and sharing too little and having the burden of nothing to carry. The poverty of convenient blindness and deafness and indifference to others. The poverty of pride and ingratitude for God's gifts of life and children and family and freedom and home and country, and not wanting for others what you want for yourself. The poverty of fear, which keeps you from doing the thing you think is right. The poverty of convenient ignorance about the needs of those around you and of despair and cynicism. God, help us end poverty in our time, in all its faces and places, young and old, rural, urban, suburban, and small town too, and in every color of humans you have made everywhere. God, help us to end poverty in our time in all its guises, inside and out, physical and spiritual, so that all our and your children may live the lives that you intend. Amen. Okay. So we're going to talk about how to do advocacy to combat child hunger and poverty. And I have a slide presentation. So I should be able to pull this up. Oh, very good. All right. So one thing I wanted to say, now I can't see anybody where I am right now. So Pastor Oviedo is going to let me know if there's a question or a comment in the chat to be shared. We had practiced this, but I don't know why my screen, let me try one thing here. See if I can do a view that allows me to see you guys. I don't know. We had it all set up, but it keeps going to that. Hang on one second. Okay, Pastor, it's going to full screen for me now. Earlier it was fine. So anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. And then Pastor Oviedo is going to let me know when there's a question or a comment. Put it in the chat and he'll ask it of me. So the first thing we're going to do tonight is we are going to remind you of this presentation is we are going to build a advocacy kit. And this is what it looks like. All this is right now is a plastic bag for building the kit, but I will have completed the kits. I will have completed kits in the church office if you want to pick one up. And inside the bag will be a list of what each item represents. So they'll be in the church office and Jolene will have them. I'm hoping you all can see this screen and the slides on it too. If you can't, let Pastor Oviedo know. So the first item for your kit is a noisemaker to remind you to speak up for others and those who cannot speak for themselves.
Kelly, your screen is not shared. We cannot see, but you're seeing.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Lorraine. I was ready to let her know.
Okay, so
Hit share screen and find the presentation in your desktop.
okay, I'm sorry. I was supposed to do that initially and I guess I didn't do it.
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. Now, share screen. There it is. Sorry, guys. There you are. I actually prefer this so I can see everybody.
Okay, good.
Okay, from the beginning, let's see.
Correct. Perfect.
Okay, there we go. Perfect. Thanks, Larian. Hopefully I said your name right there. All right.
Yeah.
So let me go back to the slides that I had. So the first one is just a plastic bag and that's going to include all our advocacy kit items. The next one is a noisemaker to remind you to speak up for others and those who cannot speak up for themselves. Okay, this is something to think about. Why do we advocate for others? I found this quote I really like. People who choose to do nothing still affect public policy. Their silence supports the way things are rather than making things better. And that's by Helen Farabee, who was a mental health activist. So in other words, this quote really means standing on the sidelines and not speaking up on an issue that impacts yourself and others is making a statement to leave things as is or allow things to get worse. And choosing not to do something is making a choice and is the opposite of choosing to get involved and advocating for others. So what does advocacy look like? Advocacy can be done to change laws, policies, rules, in addition to generating public awareness of an issue. In order to establish a law or change one, you have to get your state or federal representatives on board. And you can do this through phone calls, emails, letters, and personal visits. To educate the public on an issue, you can join a coalition, write letters to the editor, blog, or post on social media if you have those skills. I do not. There is also direct advocacy that can be done through Grace's many initiatives and drives. And we have many of those at Grace. And examples are our food and school supply drives, the Habitat Blitz Bill, Prayer Shawl Ministry, just to name a few. So that's a form of advocacy as well. Okay, this is a screenshot of the North Carolina General Assembly's website, their homepage. How do you know who your representatives are? If you don't happen to know who your representatives are, it's okay, but it's really easy to find out. So you go to www.ncleg.gov and you'll get this homepage right here. On the screen, let's see, it's hard, I'm sorry, it's hard to see this, but in the top, and see, oh, good, my cursor works. Hopefully you can see it. But at the top, it says find your legislators. When you click on that tab, it takes you to the next page, which is on the next slide. So this is where you would type in your address, where my cursor is, and indicate who you want to find out about. Do you want to find out who your House representative is, your Senate, or U.S. House? And I found you have to click, you have to do that individually because you can only press one of these buttons at a time. So that's how you find it out. And then it will take you to this page, which is my next slide. And when I put in my address in Horseshoe, the results came up for U.S. House is Madison Cawthorn. And then my state, I'm sorry, I misspoke because it looks like you just put your address in and you get all the information. I'm sorry. So I got my Madison Cawthorn. He's a Western congressional representative, District 11 for everybody probably on this call because we all live in the West. And then I have Jake Johnson as my House rep and Chuck Edwards as my Senate rep. But that's not true for everybody in Henderson County because some people have other representatives. Their names are hyperlinked there. So if you click on Jake Johnson, for example, it will take you to their website where you can get their office number and their email address. And I believe if they have a newsletter, I know Cawthorn does, you can sign up for the newsletter. This site doesn't have any information on our senators, Tom Tillis and Richard Burr, but if you Google their names, their web pages and contact information come up, okay? And then I'm going to go back just a second here and show you a couple more things on this site. Really, the North Carolina General Assembly has a pretty good website, and you can do a lot of research on this site, just FYI. If you have a bill number, you can put the bill number up here and do a search on it. You can also see the calendars when the Senate and the House, again, this is North Carolina General Assembly, when they meet. You can also listen to them in session, which is pretty fascinating. I've done that a couple of times. So you can actually hear debate on bills on the floor and all that kind of stuff. And so that's, and you might even be able to see them. I see a video button there too. So you can, if you know that they're going to be voting on a bill or discussing it based on what's on the calendar, you can do that. Now the slide is cut off a little bit, but down below here is the calendar. So the North Carolina Child Fatality Task Force, which I'm familiar with, is meeting on, well, they met on September 20th. And that's a good task force. It's a standing task force that has, my division boss used to be on that, supervisor, and they talk about child health issues, Medicaid for kids, what's killing kids. You know, it says child fatality in the name. It's not exclusive to that, but they do. They will have people come and present information on different topics. A lot of it had to do one year about safety for kids, bike helmets, car seats, whatever, you know, the issues are. But anyway, that's there. So it's a good site to remember and have if you want to do some research. Okay, so this next slide is a pen to remind you that letters and emails can be an effective way to advocate. So this is for your kit, and email messages, letters are used a lot these days. I sent one a week ago, Friday, to Edward's office and got a response from his staff the following Tuesday. So they did respond. Almost 40 years ago, when I was an intern with the West Virginia State Legislature, which was in the days before emails, I saw firsthand the responsiveness of legislators to personalized letters they received on an issue. If a representative got a handful of letters on a topic, that got their attention. But emails are much quicker, but letters are still very, very good. I think with emails, the lobbyist that I know has told me they tend to just do tick marks on how many pro emails and how many anti emails they get on a topic, but they're still counting either way. Again, a personalized letter sometimes can be very compelling and persuasive to legislators as well. Okay, next slide. This slide is an outline for writing a personalized letter, and this comes from the Results Organization, which did a training on advocacy sponsored by the JAM for Grace members in 2019. And I'm just going to review the content a little bit. Their format is engage first, so that is where you state why you want something done about an issue. For example, with child hunger and poverty, it impacts the ability of kids to learn. Something about the problem, provide information on what the problem is. You can give them some stats, but a personal story is good. So if you know kids that live in poverty and how that affects them, that's a great persuasive argument. Inform them about the solution. So you can provide information on what needs to be done to solve the problem. It might be more funding in the case of child hunger for SNAP assistance, more funding for school lunches, school breakfast, et cetera. And then call to action, you state what you want your representative to do, sponsor a bill, vote for a bill, et cetera. So that's just a quick and easy format for writing personal letters. Obviously you don't have to follow that format, but that was something that was taught to our group by the Results Advocacy Organization. Okay, the next slide is a dime to remind you that phone calls are one of the most effective ways to advocate. Now, how many of you remember when payphone calls were just a dime? I can't see all of you, but oh, Larry and shaking her head. No, no, no. Okay, and I can't see the rest of you, but I remember that. And then how many of you remember payphones? Okay, Lena and Whip are just, yes, I can't see anybody else, but some of you probably are old enough to remember payphones. So phone calls to your representatives can be short but effective. My experience has been that usually the representative themselves does not answer their own phone. It's usually a staff member that answers the call. And they are prepared to take a message from you. And they will usually say that they will give the message to your representative. Make sure if you make some phone calls to tell the staffer that you are one of the representative's constituents, why you are calling, and what you want your representative to do. And this could be anything from sponsoring a bill, voting positively on a bill, voting negatively, etc. And if the staffer doesn't know where the representative stands, like the staffer last week didn't know how Edward stood on the issues, on some of the issues that I called about, then they should get back with you about your about the position, but you're going to have to ask them to get back with you about where your representative stands on an issue and what how they're going to vote. So hopefully that's clear enough. But anyway, that's what the dime in your kit is for. The next one is a face. This is the best as I could do for a face, but a face to remind you that face-to-face visits with legislators can be very impactful. And sometimes you'll visit, if you ever get this far and want to take an issue in front of a representative, that's great. They all spend time in their districts and they have district offices. It's a great way to meet them. You can learn their position on an issue and it gives you a chance to make your case about the need for their support. When you go, just make sure you have your talking points ready, know your topics so that you can answer their questions. And if you can't answer a question, that's okay. Promise you will get the answer and get back with them. Don't guess or, about an issue. Your credibility is important. Ask them for their support on an issue. And even if you don't get their support on your issue this time, you may get it next time. So be polite and courteous and thank them for their time. So I don't know, has anybody on the call, and again, I can't see everybody, but has anybody on the call ever done a face-to-face visit with one of their legislators on an issue? Okay, Lita and Whip are shaking their head. Oh, Pastor Alfredo has done that. Good, good. I got the chance many years ago to do visits on Capitol Hill through an association that was advocating for community migrant health centers. And so that was a really neat experience. Okay, the next item for your bag is gum to remind you to stick with your cause, since getting legislation passed can take time. Now, most of the time, it takes several legislative sessions to get something done, but it can happen in one. An example of legislation that advocates have been trying to pass for several years is Medicaid expansion under the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare. And this year, something might finally happen out of the North Carolina General Assembly Conference Budget Committee. We will see. North Carolina General Assembly is still in session. They are hammering out the budget between the House and the Senate. And there's been rumor that they might be able to stick Medicaid expansion in there. There is a careforcarolina.com website you can check out for more information. According to this website, there are almost 7,000 people in Henderson County who would be covered by Medicaid expansion if the North Carolina General Assembly passed the legislation. 7,000 of our neighbors, friends, et cetera. And North Carolina is only one of 13 states that has not passed Medicaid expansion. And I was thinking about this and I thought to myself, can you imagine not having health insurance right now, getting sick with COVID and being hospitalized, and the enormous medical bills that you might face as a result because you just happen to be living in a state that hasn't expanded Medicaid. So hopefully it might be a miracle, but I believe in miracles. So you never know, they may come forward and pass it. Okay, this slide, I'm going to send this slide out to you by email. The print is very small, but and it is also available on the ncleg.gov website. But this flow chart represents the ideal process of how a bill becomes a law. And again, this is the ideal process. A lot of times it doesn't happen this way, but in a nutshell, it starts with a bill being submitted by a representative, a House or a Senate member. Citizens can bring issues to their representatives, and the representatives decide if they want to support legislation addressing the issue, but citizens cannot submit bills on their own. I wish we could. And many years ago was a detective that went to his North Carolina state representative. Unfortunately, after he was involved in investigating a dead newborn that was found in a landfill in Macon County. And because of his efforts and going to, I think it was a state senator in Macon County, that helped get North Carolina's safe surrender law, which was established in 2001. And I know this because I worked for the Women's and Children's Health Branch, and this program, when it passed, the General Assembly was put into the Children's Health section of the division that I worked in. But this law, just so you know, allows parents up to 7 days after the birth of their baby to turn their infant over to a responsible adult, such as law enforcement, healthcare providers, social service workers, or any other responsible adult, and not be criminally charged. So the whole point of this is to avoid baby, scared, usually teenagers, from killing their babies. Instead, they can give their babies up if they've concealed the pregnancy or whatever and not be criminally charged. So after legislation is introduced, it goes through several readings and votes in either the House or the Senate. And if it's voted out, it goes to the other body and through a similar process. If the legislation is amended and passed by the other body, it then goes to a conference committee made up of members of both houses. The conference committee has to negotiate a version of the bill that they all agree on, and then it goes back to both the houses to be voted on. Once it's voted out of the North Carolina General Assembly, it can be signed by the governor, it can be vetoed by the governor, or it will become law if the governor takes no action. And again, that's a simplistic explanation, but in essence, it's how it works. That's how we create legislation in our state. Okay, this is a really poor person, but this is an example of a person to remind you that one person can make a difference and impact change. And I've learned recently that these are no longer called pipe cleaners, they're called Chanel sticks. So that's if you've ever heard of a Chanel stick. But anyway, this is my, sorry, but it's my immature way to express a person. Many of the folks we advocate for don't vote. They may not think their vote matters, and they have everyday challenges just getting food on the table, and voting is not a priority. So it's important that these folks get educated on the issues, get registered to vote, encouraged to vote, because their voice matters. And voter engagement is another form of advocacy. And voter engagement is a non-partisan issue. Getting people registered to vote, directing them to where they can get information on candidates and their positions, as well as helping folks understand where they are supposed to vote and how they can vote, empowers them. Did you guys know that 17-year-olds can vote in federal and state election primaries if they will be 18 by the general election in November? Lorian shaking her head, yes. I can't see the rest of you, but I was surprised by that. And one of the special moments in my life was taking my step-granddaughter Lacey to vote in the 2020 primary when she was only 17. It was a neat experience. We took photos, et cetera. But that's something I learned since I've been working elections and learned it as a result of working the elections. Okay, so we're going to turn to child hunger and poverty, which is the essence of this series that we're doing. I'm just going to go over the items on this. You can see what's here. I hate reading slides, but per Feeding America's website, 1 in 5 children face hunger in our country. And according to NC Child, which is a statewide advocacy organization for children, 43% of children in North Carolina live in poor or low-income households. According to information shared by Elizabeth Moss last week from IAM, 10.8% of Henderson County residents live in poverty, and 17% of Hendersonville residents live in poverty. And she shared that the poorest families in the community tend to be Latinx. The advanced child tax credit payments that start in July of this year are expected to reduce child poverty by half. And currently these payments are expected during this year only. The tax credits need to be made permanent by Congress for them to continue. How many of you know a family that is benefiting from the advanced child tax credits right now? Anybody know anybody? Okay, Lorian. Again, I'm sorry, I can't see the rest of you all on the screen, but I'm just curious if you know. I personally have 2 families among my relatives that are eligible. and receiving payments. Both families have parents that are working, but their incomes are such that they qualify for the child tax credits. Okay, next slide. So the ELCA develops a list of federal policy priorities annually. I did not know that. The list for 2021 includes one on hunger and poverty, which is very comprehensive in addressing the problem. And I'm just going to read it real quick. They urge nutrition investments in COVID-19 legislation and addressing the racial and ethnic disparities in food insecurity nationwide. They advocate for restoring, protecting, and adequately funding child nutrition programs, ensuring access to paid family and sick leave, and advocate to expand the earned income tax credit and the child tax credit for low-income families. They urge increasing the federal minimum wage to $15 per hour so that working families can meet basic and fundamental needs. The current state and federal minimum wage is $7.25, just so you know. I don't know, I'm sure there's people getting paid that little, but that's North Carolina and the federal. And just so you know, the federal poverty level for a family of four is $26,500. So that's not a lot of money to raise a family of four on. So wages need to be increased here so children have enough to eat and the things that they need. All right. So let me go to the next. There's one other thing I wanted to say about this. The list of ELCA's policy priorities is 3 pages long and very comprehensive and includes such things as healthcare, rights of migrants and refugees, gender justice, climate threats, and many other issues. So it'd be worthwhile, if you're not familiar with what those federal policy priorities are, to take a look at them on the website. And it should be elca.org. But they take a very comprehensive approach to hunger and their priorities. Okay, now we're going to look at Bread for the World and then talk about the offering of letters. Bread for the World is one of ELCA's longtime partners. Since 1975, Bread has encouraged congregations and members to have faith and hunger and act. Every year, Bread for the World sponsors an offering of letters to Congress. And that's when thousands of people and Christian organizations across the country take the concrete step of writing to their US senators and representatives, calling on them to take concrete actions to reduce hunger and poverty at home and throughout the world. So JAM wanted to invite you to be a part of this year's offering of letters to Congress with its focus on hunger and poverty among children this year. We're going to watch a 2-minute video overview that shows what this special offering has accomplished in the past and why it's important now. And after that, we'll take a quick look at Bread's website, which we'll be using later in the evening. Okay, so hopefully, fingers crossed, this works.
Bread for the World is a collective Christian advocacy organization that urges Congress to pass legislation to end hunger and poverty at home and abroad. Hundreds of millions experience hunger and poverty around the globe, and these numbers have grown exponentially since the coronavirus pandemic began. A key advocacy and organizing tool at Bread for the World to fulfill our mission and God's call to end hunger and poverty is our offering of letters to Congress. It is an opportunity to put our faith in action, inviting congregations, campuses, or groups to gather together to write personalized letters or emails to Congress to reduce hunger and poverty through legislative action. Over the years, these letters and emails have helped win victories and address hunger issues and their root causes, such as global hunger, our broken immigration and criminal justice systems, and the racial wealth gap. In recent years, these efforts secured passage of the Global Food Security Reauthorization Act, a bill that ensures support for smallholder farmers and addresses the nutrition needs of women and children around the world. These efforts also helped pass COVID-19 relief bills to increase the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program by 15%. And extend pandemic EBT to provide groceries for children who lost access to free and reduced price lunches due to school closures. These are significant wins when so many Americans struggle to put food on the table. Visit our website, available in English and Spanish, and get the latest tools and tips to plan your event and write Congress to support effective anti-hunger programs and policies around the world. Be sure to contact your bread organizer for detailed advice and promote your event. By putting your faith in action through the offering of letters, you are helping families to put food on the table and ensure our nation and world have access to a healthy, sustainable future. Together, we can end hunger in our lifetime.
Okay. Let's see if I can proceed. I had to hit escape a couple of times. Okay, hang on a second. Let me go to the next slide. Okay. I want to thank Lita for creating this next series of screenshot slides on bread.org's website. This enabled me to not have to go live onto the website, and because there's always potential for trouble when you go live on a PowerPoint. So she created these slides for us. And this is Bread's homepage, what you can see of it right here. The next slide, if you scroll down, if you're on their site, which is Bread, by the way, the site is bread.org, I believe. Bread.org, right? And if you scroll down, there's information on the offering of letters, which we're going to spend more time on here. The right to Congress link is on the right, and we'll come back to that shortly. And again, it's this circle here, which for me is covered by some of y'all's faces, but it's right there on the right-hand side. They have a new website, and it has a bunch of resources. By tapping the gold Explore the New Website tab, it takes you to the Offering of Letters landing page, and that's what this is here. Okay, you can scroll down at the top there, and there will be an amazing collection of resources that you can use for writing letters and just getting informed about the topic of childhood hunger. There are fact sheets, which are right there in the middle, which give you reliable information about proposed legislation. There's prayers, litanies, and sermons that root our advocacy in scripture and the faith we share. You'll also find videos, the one we just saw, and a longer one that explores the faith foundations of our engagement. So that would be this lower one there. Plus, there's specific resources to help us advocate on 3 interrelated issues before Congress this year. And those are food systems and climate change, food systems and racial and gender equity, and food systems and economic justice. So you can click on those sites within the Bread website and get more information on those topics. This site reflects a main focus of the campaign this year, which is to make permanent the expanded child tax credit that is expected to cut in half the child poverty rates. Here's where the fact sheets are helpful, because good advocacy must be based on sound information. And this is an example of the fact sheet for permanently expanding the child tax credit to reduce child hunger. And I printed that out. It's very informative. And this fact sheet discusses the pending proposal that would permanently expand the child tax credit. So now it's time to do some actual advocacy work. So if you have a separate device like your phone, you can go to for bread.org, great. If you don't, at this point, if you can, you don't have to, but if you can, minimize your browser and open another and follow my instructions. So I'll give you a second to try that. If you're afraid you're gonna lose the Zoom call, you don't have to do it. But if you wanna try to pull up a browser, then you'll be able to actually enter the information in the next couple of slides to send a letter to Congress. And of course, you can always do this after the call by just going to the bread.org site. So if any, again, I can only see about 4 folks, but if you go to bread.org, you'll be able to open up the webpage we just saw. On the Bread for the World's homepage, if you hit Act Now, which is in the gold band below the child's chin, it will bring you to a page where you can do an advocacy email. And I'm going to show you what that page looks like right now. This is where you can enter your information. And for those of you that have a browser open, you can go through this and put your name, your email address, city, etc. Fill that out. And on the right side of the screen, if you're not doing that, on the right side of the screen is a message that has been developed by Bread for sending to your representatives, your senators and your congressperson, which again would be Madison Cawthorn. So for those of you that are not filling out the form right now, if you can see the message, on the right-hand side, go ahead and take a look at that for just a second. For anybody else who might be entering the information, I'll give you a couple of minutes to enter the email information, your contact information. But read over the message that's in that box. Okay. Okay, so after you've entered your information, again, there's the text that will be sent. You have a lot of choices here about what you write. You can leave the text in the box as is for sending to your representative. Lita had suggested you could choose to simply ask your legislators to write you back with their answers to this question. What concrete steps are you taking this year to sponsor or support bills that would reduce the high child poverty rate? So you can edit this once you're live, you can edit this any way you want to. The other thing that is helpful is personalizing this. And I'm going to show you an example of what Lita had put on a slide, but if you personalize it in the first paragraph, then you can just scroll down and leave the rest of it there in the message box. So she created this message. I don't know if you can see the entire screen, but it says, my husband Ted and I have lived in Hendersonville for 20 years. We're members of Grace Lutheran Church, which is committed to reducing poverty and hunger in our community. I used to teach elementary school, and I have known children whose parents worked at low-paying jobs. They struggled to make ends meet and often couldn't afford the nutritious food their children needed to grow healthy and learn well. And now the current situation is especially hard on children who live in poverty. So what Lita did is she created that message, and then it appears first thing in this box that has the text, standard text message. So she just put that there, and that personalizes it for her legislators. And when you're done with that box, then what you want to do is hit the send button, which is at the bottom. You don't have to worry about putting in any of your name, address, any of that, or who you're sending it to, because the system will automatically do that. Once you enter your personal information, that will go into your message, and then who your legislators are will pop up, which is pretty nifty. So you did it. For those of you that did it while we were on Zoom, you've already sent your letter in, and congratulations. It's easy. It's very easy. And thanks for participating in the offering of letters to end child hunger. If you weren't able to do it during the Zoom call, which you might not have been, you can please, I guess I would ask, please try and do it very soon by going to bread.org and writing a letter. email and sending it in. If you want to send a letter, like you saw in the video, people were writing letters. And ideally, if we didn't have COVID, we'd be in a room all writing letters together. There'd be energy and enthusiasm. We'd have snacks. But because of COVID, we weren't able to do it that way. So I would just please ask that you consider writing either a letter or sending an email on this topic. So a couple other things I wanted to share is how do you do ongoing advocacy for issues you care about? There's advocacy organizations, many advocacy organizations out there that exist on the state and national level, for particularly for child poverty issues and child health issues. And it's so easy to send an email to your representative on any issue. You just saw how easy it was. These advocacy organizations will send you an email or text once you're signed up with them, and you just fill in your contact information, and the email goes to your representative along with a pre-written message just like this one. You can edit it or leave it as is. And that way you can help advocate on supporting an issue through legislation. I did one recently, just last week, from the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society that was trying to get people to advocate for legislation. I can't remember the name of the piece of legislation, but it would allow doctors to enroll in Medicaid in different states in a far easier way. And the reason for this is because sometimes kids with childhood blood disorders, cancers, et cetera, leave their home state to go to another state for treatment. And in order for the doctors in the other state to take care of them, they have to enroll as Medicaid providers. And that's in North Carolina, that's a big deal. So this legislation would streamline that. That's just an example of something I got recently. I do have a document that has a list of advocacy organizations. They're pretty much focused on children, teenagers, that kind of thing, babies. And I'm going to send that out to you in an email. And it does tell you how to sign up from the website to join each of their listserv. I'm not asking you all to sign up for every listserv that's out there relating to kids, but I encourage you to sign up for at least one of the listservs that's on there so you can get legislative alerts and know what's going on at the state and federal level and can help advocate. This next slide is just something I stuck in here for fun. There's a political astuteness survey that I've used in the classes I've taught at Marcel University in the social work program. And it's just really to stretch yourself a little bit by filling it out. I'll send that in a follow-up email to you as well. You can score it if you want. It's not scientific, it's just fun. It'll give you an idea of things you can do to become a more informed voter and an effective advocate. And I encourage you to do something on this survey that you haven't done before. And you'd be surprised. I've never had anybody that scored 100% on that survey. I haven't even. But it might be working the elections or going to a public hearing on an issue. It could be helping others register to vote or calling your legislator about an issue. And I would just encourage you to push yourself and try something on the list. The last item for your advocacy kit is gold, which is to remind you that your efforts on behalf of others are priceless. They're priceless to the people that benefit from them. And that is my last slide to the presentation. I want to ask Pastor Alfredo if, or just open it up, if anybody had anything in the chat. If not, does anybody have any questions or comments about anything I shared? And I did find out while you guys were looking at your browser how to see the other folks. So I can see Joyce and Carol now and Jim and Diane. So does anybody have a comment or an experience they want to share where they've done some advocacy and what oh, Jim's got his hand up. Okay, great, Jim, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. I had some unfortunate experience with Meadows. I've gotten in touch with them twice in the last 4 years and have never gotten a response. And I always hear on the news, or I get stuff from AARP, sign this petition, sign that petition. And I have to assume from your presentation that you think individual letters are more effective than petitions.
Well, I think they have different purposes. Sometimes I think it is about the numbers, and these organizations just get people to sign petitions and then they get the petitions in. But I do think I think a personalized letter from a constituent carries some weight for sure. So, it's really what your time can allow. You can send a lot of email messages, but again, I think if it's a pre-worded email, I think mostly they just count them yay or nay in terms of issue. If you, like the other day, I sent an email to Edwards and to Johnson because they're both on the conference committee, the budget conference committee. And I called both offices, and then I sent the legislative priorities of the North Carolina chapter of the National Association of Social Workers, which I'm a member of, and I'm on their legislative committee. And it was just a reminder when they are talking about the budget to be aware of some of the needs that the social workers are advocating for, like the extension of telehealth visiting. I can't remember everything that's on it. Medicaid expansion was another. So I did that, and I don't know if that'll spurn anything in their brain when they're sitting around the table doing conferencing around the budget, but it lets them know that we're watching what they're doing.
Yeah.
And really the only way to change, I heard this expression one time, it's a lot easier to put the right people in than to get the wrong people out, meaning out of office. So that's where you have to look at people that are running and what their policy platforms are, and try to get those people that tend to support your issues into office. I never had much response to Meadows either, frankly. But it is what it is. You have to keep trying. I will say Jake Johnson called me back last year. So I was surprised by that, but because I've never had a legislator call me back before. You can ask, but they don't always do it. That's why the face-to-face meetings are so good, because you can actually, talk to them and see where they stand. But I don't know if that answered your question or not, but I do think personalized letters are helpful. Yeah. Other comments or questions, experiences, anybody wants to share? Okay. We're ending a little bit early, and Pastor Oviedo and I talked about that. That's not a problem. It's Sunday night. People want to spend their time with their families. I am going to send to all of you the things I promised. And if you didn't do the letter tonight and you want to do it, just go to bread.org. If you have any problems, let me know. But I think it should be fairly self-explanatory since we went over the slides. Lita, do you want to share anything, since you put so much energy into this presentation with my screenshots and all?
The only thing would be is the timing of what we're doing is really important, because the reconciliation bill that the child tax credit is embedded in just was approved by the House Budget Committee. So it's going to go then to the House floor, then to the Senate. So the timing is everything. And it is, I think, as you said, Jim and Kelly, it's kind of a numbers thing, just the awareness that numbers of people are concerned about this and the reduction of poverty. So that would be it. Just the timing of this turned out to be, it couldn't have been better.
You're right, because this week there's a lot of legislation that both the House and Senate are going to have to get through. And I just saw that Pastor put up the recording of the first video for Elizabeth Moss's presentation. And he's going to edit this one, and we'll have a second link. And we were talking, apparently you can do a search on YouTube for Grace's YouTube channel, and we're hoping that they'll come up. But if there's a problem, let me know, because I'll have both the links. Just email me and I'll send it to you. But you all saw it today. But if you want to go back, you want to tell somebody about it to watch it, there's the link. All right. So Lita was going to lead. Oh, go ahead, Pastor.
Use an observation that I follow the process to Breadth of the World to send the email letter. And the first time I try it, they requested me, I just entered the zip code, the 5 digits. And so they send a message to say, you need to put the 4 more digits for the zip code. So it asks for the 5 zip code and then the other 4 numbers. So Alexandrina found it for me. I put it there and send it. And I just received the confirmation and email back that they receive it and that it's done. So it's pretty easy. Just wanted to let you know if it doesn't go through the first time, they will tell you. In my case, was the zip code that it was missing the 4 digits in the zip code. So that's my observation. So thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you
for sharing that. That's good. I don't want people to be frustrated. So,
Yeah.
Lita, are you prepared to do a closing prayer for us?
Sure. Let's pray. O God of justice and truth, love and compassion, we bring before you in prayer people in our community, in our country, and throughout the world who experience persistent hunger, especially children and those who care for them. We ask that you would guide our steps as we work to end hunger and reduce poverty. Strengthen your church as it supports those who are marginalized and who live in poverty. Give us faith that we, your children, can make a difference, and give us persistence in calling on our legislators to make ending hunger and poverty a priority. Guide us and strengthen us in your service. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that, Lena. That was very appropriate. I want to remind folks that the advocacy kits are in the office with Jolene. So if you happen to be in the church, you can just ask for one of those. And that's it for tonight. Is there any other comments or announcements that anybody? Oh, I was going to remind people that next week is the third in our series, the Child Poverty series. And Belém Solano, a member of Grace, is going to talk about the new initiatives that IM has going on with migrants in our county. So be sure and catch that one as well. We appreciate, you have lots of other things you all could be doing, and I really appreciate you guys participating tonight. So thank you very much. And I will see.
Thanks, Kelly. Nice job.
Okay, thank you. Be well, everybody.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Lita. Thanks,
Thank
Pastor
you,
Alfredo.
Kelly.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, very well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Hi, Kelly.